Okay, so picture this. Your tiny, adorable dachshund puppy is just sitting next to you on the sofa.
Right, just hanging out.
Exactly. And suddenly, they just launch themselves off the cushions, they hit the floor, kind of shake it off, and then happily trot away.
And you probably don't even think twice about it.
You really don't. You might not even blink. I mean, it looks like a completely harmless, everyday puppy moment.
Mm.
But according to our notes today, underneath the surface, you actually just started a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of the most deceptive moments in puppyhood.
Yeah, it looks fine.
They do. But what looks like a resilient little dog shaking off a jump is actually a micro-stress. And it's happening on a physiological structure that is, frankly, nowhere near finished developing.
Which is exactly why we are jumping right into this deep dive today. We've got a fascinating stack of notes, and it's all focused on the incredibly high-stakes first 12 to 18 months of a dachshund puppy's life.
It really is a critical window.
It is. We're unpacking what happens beneath the surface during this foundational period. Because, this isn't just some survival guide to getting through the potty training puddles and the chewing phase.
Right. It's so much bigger than that.
It's basically a masterclass in how your everyday actions, like, just letting them jump off that couch, directly shape the lifelong physical structure and the behavioral temperament of a very uniquely built dog.
The stakes here are just monumental. I mean, what happens, or really what you fail to prevent during this specific window, genuinely molds the dog you're going to be living with for the next 12 to 16 years.
12 to 16 years. That's a long time.
It's a huge commitment. And this goes far beyond just teaching them to sit or stay, We are talking about building their literal skeleton and their entire worldview, basically at the same time.
Let's stay on that couch jump for a second, because the notes highlight this concept of invisible development, which I just found wild.
That's a great term for it.
Yeah. Because if you look at a dachshund at, say, 8 or 9 months old, they look like a fully baked miniature adult.
Yeah.
And they've reached their adult height, their proportions look right.
They look totally done.
Right. But you're saying their structural timeline is telling a completely different story.
Basically, the outside is a liar.
A liar. Okay, wow.
Seriously. They might look fully grown, but beneath the skin, their spine, the incredibly fragile discs between those vertebrae, and the complex musculature required to support that famously long back, all of that is still actively developing.
So they aren't actually finished?
Not at all. In a lot of cases, that internal structural development continues well beyond the 18-month mark.
Okay, so it's not actually about that one single jump off the couch causing an immediate break or a slip disc right there on the rug.
No, not usually. I mean, accidents happen, but the real danger is the cumulative strain on a maturing, unfinished physical structure.
The wear and tear.
Exactly. You have to imagine that long back as like a suspension bridge that doesn't have all its support cables fully tightened yet.
Oh, that's a good way to picture it.
Right. So every hard landing on the floor, every time they bounce down a flight of stairs unsupervised, or even engage in really rough play with a larger dog, it's putting micro stresses on a spine that just lacks the mature musculature to fully protect itself.
Reading through the research, the best way I can sort of conceptualize this is to think about pouring a concrete driveway.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Because if you pour that concrete, it might look dry and completely finished on the surface after just, a day or two. It feels hard to the touch.
But it's not cured yet.
Exactly. If you go ahead and park a heavy 3-ton truck on it right then, you are going to fundamentally ruin the foundation.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't cured all the way through. You can't see the vulnerability, but if you stress it too early, the damage is permanent.
That concrete analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. The surface looks ready, but the internal integrity is still curing. And if you put repeated heavy impact on it too early, you compromise the foundation for the rest of its life.
It's invisible damage.
It really is. The wear and tear you allow at 8 months is the ruptured disc you end up paying for at 8 years.
Wow. Which means, if you are bringing this puppy home, understanding this why completely changes how you set up your house.
It has to change it, yeah.
It isn't about being a tyrant and declaring, no dogs on the furniture ever. It's about engineering the environment so they don't even have the option to make a bad choice.
It is entirely about environmental management. You have to introduce tools like pet ramps or soft steps right from day one, like before they are even physically capable of jumping.
Just make it normal for them.
Exactly. You physically block off the stairs with baby gates.
Yeah.
You actively lift the puppy down yourself when they want to get off the bed. You are building safe movement habits in a 12-week-old puppy who is just learning how the laws of physics work in your house.
Because if you wait until they are fully grown to introduce a ramp, you're in for a battle.
Oh, good luck.
Right. Trying to retrofit a safety rule onto a stubborn 2-year-old dachshund who firmly believes jumping off the couch is their unalienable right. That just sounds like a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. They will just step right over the ramp and jump anyway. You really have to install the software while the hardware is still forming.
Install the software while the hardware is forming. I love that. So we're talking about this incredibly fragile physical window, but it strikes me that while their spine is curing like concrete, their brain is doing the exact same thing on an aggressively fast overlapping timeline.
Oh, yes. It's a very fast clock.
And this brings us to what the notes call the 14-week deadline.
The socialization window. If there is a make or break period in a dog's life, this is absolutely it.
Let's walk through the timeline in the notes because it accelerates ridiculously fast.
It does.
For the first 1 to 2 weeks of life, the puppy is essentially a dependent potato, right? They are totally blind and deaf.
Just sleeping and eating.
Right. Then around weeks 2 to 3, their eyes and ears open, and they finally start registering their litter mates. But the real ticking clock starts right after that.
The window flies wide open. From roughly 3 weeks of age up to about 12 or 14 weeks, you are in the critical socialization period.
And what exactly does that mean for their brain?
This is the tiny sliver of time where their brain is pliable enough to accept new experiences as normal rather than threatening.
Okay, and for a dachshund specifically, the notes emphasize that hitting this window is even more critical than it might be for, say, a golden retriever. Why is that?
It all comes down to their genetic wiring. I mean, dachshunds are hunting dogs originally bred to go underground and face down badgers.
Badgers are terrifying.
Right, so they are naturally wired to be independent, highly alert, and inherently wary of strangers. That is their factory setting.
So they aren't naturally inclined to just assume everyone is their best friend?
Far from it. If they miss out on broad, positive, confidence-building exposure during this short 12 to 14-week window, that natural, healthy watchfulness they're born with just curdles.
Oh, wow. Curdles.
Yeah, it turns into excessive barking, defensiveness, and severe anxiety anytime they encounter a new environment or a new person later in life.
Okay, but digging into these notes, I'm hitting a massive contradiction here. And it's something I think every single owner wrestles with.
I know exactly what you're going to ask.
Right. The socialization window closes at 12 to 14 weeks. But puppies are not fully vaccinated by 12 or 14 weeks.
Like they aren't.
That series of shots usually isn't done until they are 16 weeks or older. So how on earth are you supposed to socialize a dog and expose them to the world when it isn't medically safe for their paws to touch the ground at a dog park?
It's the ultimate puppy-raising paradox. And it unfortunately causes a lot of well-meaning owners to completely freeze.
Because they're scared.
Of course. Out of fear of diseases like parvo, they just keep their puppy locked inside the house until 16 weeks. But keeping them isolated is trading a potential medical risk for a guaranteed behavioral disaster.
That is a brutal trade-off. So how do you thread that needle? Like, if you're the owner, what does safe socialization actually look like in practice?
Safe socialization requires you to completely rethink what exposure means. It does not mean throwing your unvaccinated puppy onto the ground at a chaotic, crowded dog park.
Which would be terrifying for them anyway.
Exactly. Safe exposure means physically carrying the puppy in your arms into new environments so their paws never touch unknown soil.
Oh, I see. So you basically become their safe, mobile observation deck.
You are their shield and their chauffeur. You take them for car rides, you carry them through a hardware store, you expose them to the sound of the vacuum cleaner, the doorbell, sirens passing by outside.
All the weird human world stuff.
Exactly. And for dog-to-dog interaction, you set up highly controlled, supervised meetings inside your own home with calm, healthy, fully vaccinated adult dogs that belong to people you implicitly trust.
That makes so much sense. It's about curated, quality experiences, not just throwing them into the deep end. Because reading the notes, being swarmed by 5 loud strangers on the street who are all trying to pet them that isn't socializing them.
No, it's just terrifying them.
Right.
Confidence construction is delicate. Meeting one calm person who is sitting quietly on the floor offering a treat is a massive deposit into their confidence bank. Being overwhelmed triggers their fight or flight response, which just reinforces that natural wariness we are actively trying to mitigate.
Okay, so we're asking owners to actively construct this confidence, exposing the puppy to new sounds, new people, new textures. That is a staggering amount of mental processing for a tiny animal.
It's exhausting for them.
Exactly. They are going to burn a ton of energy. But looking at the notes on energy management, there is a massive misconception that owners fall for. The notes call it the exhaustion myth.
Ugh, yes. The old adage that a tired puppy is a good puppy. It leads people to think they should let the dog play until they literally drown.
Right. Because a dachshund has this incredibly bold, determined personality. Once they start playing, they are relentless.
They really are.
The notes are very clear on this. Play should be multiple, short, low-impact sessions on soft surfaces. But if I'm an owner, and I have this little furry missile zooming around my living room, bouncing off the walls, my instinct is to think, oh, they have too much energy. I need to let them run it out, tire themselves out.
And that instinct will ruin your evening.
Yeah.
A dachshund puppy's drive to keep playing is completely disconnected from what their developing body actually needs. They literally have no internal off switch.
It's exactly like a human toddler.
Oh, absolutely.
We've all seen a toddler at a birthday party who has skipped their nap. Right? Their eyes are glassy. They are actively melting down over, like, the color of a plastic cup. But if you try to put them to bed, they scream, "I'm not tired."
Yes. They have zero ability to self-regulate.
Exactly. That frantic, zoomy energy isn't them needing a longer walk. It's exhaustion masquerading as hyperactivity.
That toddler analogy is dead on. When they get frantic, they aren't under-exercised, they are overstimulated, which means you, as the owner, must be the adult in the room who steps in and calls an end to playtime.
You have to be the bad guy.
Sometimes, yeah. And the source material highlights a number that usually shocks people. A young puppy needs somewhere in the range of 18 to 20 hours of sleep a day.
Wait, 18 to 20 hours.
It's a lot.
You are essentially living with a very cute, furry log.
A log that is undergoing massive physiological changes. It is crucial to understand the biology of why they need that much sleep. It isn't laziness.
Right.
Sleep is the biological mechanism for survival and growth. When that puppy is deeply asleep, that is when genuine physical tissue repair happens, which goes right back to healing those micro-stresses on their developing spine we talked about earlier.
So sleep is literally building their skeleton. And it's not just the spine, right? It's the brain, too.
Massive amounts of brain development and memory consolidation occur during REM sleep. If they don't sleep, they literally cannot process and store all that careful, curated socialization you just spent the day doing.
Oh, wow. So if they don't sleep, the training doesn't stick.
Basically, yeah. The doorbell sound they learned not to fear.
Yeah.
That lesson gets cemented into their long-term memory while they sleep.
That is fascinating. So an overtired puppy isn't just annoying to deal with. They're actively missing out on developmental milestones.
Which means providing a quiet, undisturbed rest space is a biological necessity. It's not a luxury.
So if they are spending up to 20 hours a day sleeping, the conversation naturally shifts to where they are sleeping. And looking at the notes, their physical environment heavily influences how you train their notoriously stubborn minds.
Yes, it really does.
Because house training a dachshund is notoriously difficult, isn't it?
It requires an iron will.
Yeah.
Because of their independent streak, you just have to accept that house training will likely take longer than it would with a people-pleasing breed like a lab.
So how do you negotiate with a dog that genuinely thinks it's the smartest one in the room?
Consistency to the point of absolute boredom.
Really?
Yeah. You need a predictable, rigorous schedule for meals, water, and potty breaks. But the real linchpin here ties back to their sleeping arrangement. The crate.
Now, I know some owners push back on crates. The human instinct is to feel guilty, to think, we are putting this tiny baby into a jail cell.
That is entirely a human projection. Dogs are den animals. If a crate is introduced properly, using positive reinforcement like feeding them in there, hiding treats, doesn't feel like jail. It feels like a secure, private bedroom.
A safe space.
Exactly. And it leverages a deeply ingrained biological instinct. Dogs naturally will not soil the small space where they sleep.
Assuming the crate isn't, way too big for them.
Right. It should be just big enough for them to stand up, turn around, and lie down. This natural instinct makes the crate the ultimate tool for house training.
Let's talk about another behavioral hurdle that comes with an independent mind: biting. The notes make a strong point that dachshunds are a very hands-on, mouthy breed. Like they explore the world with their teeth.
They really do, and those puppy teeth are like little needles.
Yes, they are.
This is where owners have to teach bite inhibition, which basically means translating to the puppy that human skin is fragile.
But the natural human reaction when a puppy bites your finger hard is to pull away and scold them. You yell, "No, bad dog." But the notes say that's actually the wrong move. Why is that?
Because to a bold, energetic dachshund, your loud scolding just sounds like human barking.
Oh, they think you're playing back?
Exactly. It hypes them up. They think, oh, excellent, the human is joining in the roughhousing.
That makes so much sense.
The mechanism that actually works is mimicking littermate feedback.
So speaking dog language.
Yes. When puppies play too rough with each other, the injured puppy lets out a sharp, high-pitched yelp, and play stops immediately.
Right.
So as the owner, you give a sharp yelp, pull your hands away, and completely ignore the puppy for 10 seconds.
Just freeze them out.
Exactly. That brief, immediate pause in play teaches them that biting too hard instantly ends all the fun. It's direct cause and effect.
Okay, but if you are sitting at home right now with a bold, stubborn dachshund puppy just staring you down, ignoring all your rules, you might be tempted to escalate things. The notes describe them as determined and independent. So do old-school dominance training methods work here? Physical corrections, forcing them onto their back to show submission, showing them who the alpha is.
It heavily, heavily backfires. Current behavioral science shows that dominance-based approaches are completely counterproductive across the board, but it is especially disastrous with the dachshund.
Why is it worse for them specifically?
Go back to their genetic wiring. They have a natural inclination to be wary and alert. If you use physical corrections or try to force submission, you are basically confirming their worst suspicions about the world. You make an already wary breed highly defensive.
You ruin the trust.
You completely obliterate it. Positive reinforcement is crucial because it builds a bridge of trust. You reward the behavior you want to see. A dachshund that genuinely trusts its owner becomes cooperative. They actually want to work with you.
And the alternative?
A dachshund that is subjected to dominance training is simply trying to avoid conflict and pain. And a dog that is constantly living in fear of physical correction often develops fear-based aggression down the line.
Trust really is the foundation of everything we've talked about today. And building this trust, managing their spinal development, executing a flawless, carrying-only socialization plan. You shouldn't be doing all of this isolated on an island. The notes highlight one crucial co-pilot for you in this process: the veterinarian.
Yes, your vet is your absolute most crucial teammate in this first year.
Now, everyone knows you go to the vet for the initial vaccination series and the parasite prevention, but the research makes it clear that routine vet visits in that first year serve a much more specific mechanical purpose for this breed.
They are critical for tracking the physical architecture as it matures, and most importantly, keeping a draconian eye on their weight.
Because weight is the enemy of that bridge-like spine we talked about.
Exactly. A single extra pound on a miniature dachshund is the equivalent of a human gaining 10 or 15 pounds.
Wow, 10 or 15 pounds.
And for the dog, all that extra weight is hanging directly off the center of that long, vulnerable spine. It pulls the structure down. Maintaining a lean weight is the single most effective, proactive thing an owner can do to reduce unnecessary strain on those developing discs.
The notes also mention early dental care. But they specify it's not about brushing their teeth for 20 minutes straight. It's about desensitization.
It's as simple as getting the puppy used to having their lips lifted and their gums touched while they're just resting on the couch.
So it's not scary later.
Right. If you desensitize them to mouth handling at home, the vet can actually perform a thorough dental exam later without it turning into a total wrestling match.
Okay, looking at all these potential pitfalls we've discussed, I really want you to draw a line for us. Because puppies are inherently weird, clumsy creatures. They trip over their own ears. How do you know the difference between normal, goofy puppy clumsiness and a red flag that means you need to pick up the phone and call the vet right now?
It's a great question. New owners second-guess themselves constantly, which is totally understandable. Normal development is a gradual forward trend. You see increasing coordination and a general trend toward physical confidence.
But what are the absolute, undeniable warning signs?
If you see a sudden, unexplained reluctance to move or climb into their bed.
Mm.
If the puppy yelps when you simply pick them up or run your hand along their back.
Okay.
Or if there is a noticeable asymmetry, like a limp or a drunken wobble in how their back legs move.
And what about behavioral shifts? Because the notes mention things that seem a bit less obvious than a limp.
Right, like a sudden, unresolved drop in their appetite or a massive crash in their energy levels. Dogs, and especially stoic hunting breeds like this, often mask spinal pain as severe lethargy.
Oh, so they don't even cry out.
Often they don't. They just shut down. Any of those signs are immediate red flags.
So there is no, let's wait and see if it gets better by tomorrow morning.
Absolutely not. The golden rule during this foundational period is to err entirely on the side of caution. There is no such thing as an overly paranoid question when you are dealing with a dachshund's developing spine.
When you step back and look at this first year we've just mapped out, it really is a gauntlet.
It is intense.
You are guarding their spine like fragile glass, installing ramps everywhere. You are acting as their personal chauffeur, carrying them around to dodge diseases while frantically trying to hit that 14-week socialization window.
Doing the math every day.
Right. You are enforcing naps to make sure they get 20 hours of sleep to physically rebuild their tissues. You are throwing out the old-school dominance training to build actual trust. And you are keeping a hawk eye on their weight with your vet.
It is an intense period of micromanagement. I won't sugarcoat it. But getting this invisible foundational year right is the ultimate investment. It is the down payment that guarantees a much easier, much healthier, and far more cooperative 12 to 16 years with your dog.
It really is incredible how much power the owner holds in that first year. But looking back over all these notes, I am left with one final, slightly provocative thought for you to ponder.
Ooh, okay. I'm intrigued. Where are we going with this?
Think about the massive paradox we've just discussed, right? We spend this entire first year carefully, almost obsessively, micromanaging their physical environment, blocking stairs, lifting them, basically bubble wrapping their spine.
Yeah, wrapping them in cotton wool.
Exactly. And we meticulously curate their social experiences, carrying them above the ground, controlling exactly who they meet, all to prevent their natural wariness from turning into anxiety.
It is a highly engineered, highly controlled upbringing, for sure.
Right. But given their inherent wiring, that bold, determined, highly independent personality of a badger hunter that makes them want to run and jump and guard, does this highly protected, carefully managed modern upbringing conflict with their natural instincts?
Oh, wow.
Or is it the absolute only way to allow a personality that bold to exist safely in our modern human world?
That is a phenomenal philosophical question to leave on. The tension between their wild genetics and our domestic reality. It's a tightrope.
It really is. It's definitely something to mull over the next time you have to physically lift your fiercely independent, wildly confident puppy off the sofa because they genuinely think they can fly.
They really do.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.